Buon pomeriggio a tutti. A nome del comitato organizzatore di Festival Letteratura ringraziamo Gruppo Tea per aver contribuito alla realizzazione di questo evento. A mettere gli accenti al loro posto Marta Bacigalupo e Lorenzo Pirovano.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Buon
ben ritrovati,
pomeriggio.
ben ritrovate.
Vi salutiamo in italiano, ma vi ricordiamo che l'accento sarà in inglese. Diamo il benvenuto a Colum e possiamo dire abbastanza, con una certa sicurezza, che circa fino a mezz'ora fa, Colum stava ancora fischiettando Delilah di Tom Jones, che avete ascoltato, e vi racconterà lui perché.
Perché nella prossima mezz'ora ripercorrerà insieme a noi la storia della sua fede calcistica per lo Stoke City, che ieri ha vinto con l'Huddersfield. Un applauso allo Stoke City, per favore. My Life as a Midfielder, l'accento di Colum McCann, inizia ora.
Hello. Thank you. Anybody here from Stoke? Anybody here know about Stoke? All right. Where are you from? Edinburgh. So you know. All right, great. Were they the only two hands who actually knew about Stoke City? Okay, I have a long story to tell you then. and then I will tell you why. Actually, maybe everybody, by the end of this, when the last grain of sand comes down, together we're going to sing why, Delilah, right? So let's just practice it now. Why, Delilah? Perfect, okay, great. I'm that sort of person who's the worst person to have at your party because I do sing, but I can't. So, Stoke City. Okay, where does it all begin? Well, for me, this is a story that ties in with my nationality. I'm Irish. It ties in with my father, who passed away 6 years ago. It also ties in with a sense of identity and even the idea of being an underdog. So my father was a football player. He was born in Dublin. At the age of 16, he went to London, and he played for a team called Charlton Athletic. He was a goalkeeper, but he was a second-string goalkeeper. He never got to play in the first team. The first team was dominated by a brilliant goalkeeper, like a Buffon-type character, his name was Sam Bartram. So my father got paid 2 and 6 per week. In modern-day money, that would be the equivalent of 50 euros per week. Not a lot of money to live on, right? And in the morning, he trained as a chef. And in the evenings, he cleaned the boots for all the other players. So suffice it to say, well, he wasn't a very successful football player. He loved the game, but he wasn't successful. Now, he'd grown up in Dublin, and he left school at the age of 12. But the thing was, he was a very, very, very good writer. And so when he left football, well, he had a job as a chef, then he had a job as a clown, and then he went to Egypt with the British Army, go figure, for a year. My mum, who's from Derry in Northern Ireland, and my dad got married in Egypt. But anyway, they came back to England, and my father started to write about football. Right? And he reported for the BBC, and he became a journalist. Then he came back to Dublin and started his family. And I was the first one to be born in Ireland. And we had a relatively sort of safe, middle-class upbringing. You know, my father was working for the newspaper, the Irish Press. And, I played football. I played as a midfielder. My brother was a goalkeeper, a lot taller than me. And he actually got trials for Manchester United and all of that. But my father would bring us across from Dublin on the boat, on the cattle boat, in fact, from Dublin across to Liverpool, and then we get on the train towards Manchester and then on to Stoke-on-Trent, because we wanted to see one particular goalkeeper, or he wanted to see one particular goalkeeper. Does anybody know who that goalkeeper would have been? Gordon Banks, exactly. Gordon Banks and Peter Shilton, they both played for Leicester and Stoke. I could have been a Leicester supporter. Things could have been better for me. But I ended up being a Stoke City supporter. And so I would go to the games and I would travel with my father. Now, I wrote a little piece to try to give you a little bit of the atmosphere about my father. But this is me when I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old, with my father. And I'm also wearing a Stoke City jersey, as you will see, red and white stripes. But I want to read you just a little piece about one of the journeys that we did together, and then tell you a little bit more about the stuff. It's called The Journey Home. 7 years old, the boat pulled out from Dunleary. Dublin faded in the distance, a choppy sea, huge and grey. I wore my Stoke City scarf and shirt under my blue anorak. My father guided me down the steps into the hull. Some men were arguing over a bottle, thick Irish accents. They sat under a blanket of cigarette smoke. Others intent at the slot machines. The boat tilted and rolled. We were on our way to London to see my hero, Gordon Banks, play for Stoke against Arsenal. Everything was new to me. Everything. The smoke, the roar, the leaving. I could feel my heart thumping in my striped shirt. I pulled the scarf tight around me. My father had booked a berth. We climbed into bed for the 8-hour crossing. He had taken this boat many times before, towards England. He had been a goalkeeper in the 1950s, for Charlton Athletic, for other teams too. He never talked about it that much. Hey, Dad, did you save a lot of goals? Go to sleep now, son. Did you ever save a penalty? Sleep. Were you as good as Gordon Banks? The boat pitched and rolled. The sound of slot machines filtered through the air. Shouts rang out, fighting and laughter and dreams. I don't know if I slept, I can't recall. But we got off the boat at Holyhead with the rumour of light already in the sky. It was the day of the game. We boarded a train to London. A man in a railway hat blew a whistle and I pitched from seat to seat. Dad, look, he's got a red flag. Maybe he's a Stokey. Be quiet now, son. Don't speak too loud. Why, Dad? Well, some people don't like our accents. Why not? Just because. Quiet now, good lad. Because we're Irish? Bad people had been letting off bombs in England, he said. We had to be careful, or otherwise certain people might think we were there for things other than football. It stumped me, but I stayed silent. I curled up in the seat and I watched the fields whiz by. England wasn't very green. There were lots of big towns and big chimneys, and grey smoke poured across the sky. My mother had packed ham sandwiches for us, and my father had a flask of tea. We sat back and ate breakfast as the train